Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, a show that will help you transform your marketing from mere messaging to programs that break the rules and make a difference. Join the movement today and learn non-traditional techniques that give you an edge. Now, here's your Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Every once in a while, we try to do things differently here at Renegade Thinkers Unite. This is going to be different. It's going to be an exploration at PegaWorld. We're live. My guest today is Jeff Nicholson, and who is the Vice President of Product Marketing for CRM. So first, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Tell me, first for my aunt, who is not as technically diverse, she just doesn't quite get all the details of technology, but listens to the show. What the heck is CRM?
Well, it's really interesting what you're asking. What should CRM be? Okay. Is a very different thing from what CRM has been in the past. In the past, CRM had been sold to businesses as, well, look at the term. It's for your aunt. It stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it's been called that for a long, long time. The problem is, it actually didn't do that. It was sold as this kind of relationship in a box. You just turn it on, great things will happen. In practice, though, that R in CRM really turned out to be nothing more than the word record. They turned out to be customer record management systems in practice. And that's part of the reason why this space is so ripe for reinvention and needs it, quite frankly. And if you look at the CRM systems that have been sold over the past, close to a decade, the systems are just for managing customer contact details and querying and reporting on details. And some do a better job at managing the information than others. And many businesses actually have several different CRM systems to make matters even worse, which gives you different versions of the truth, and it makes it difficult. So when your aunt calls that contact center or goes to the website, there's a reason why her information is disconnected. It isn't there. And as she moves across channels to a mobile app, because maybe your aunt likes mobile apps, or tweets, or goes to Facebook Messenger, there's a reason why those experiences are disconnected. There's a reason why it does take so long to get resolution to the issues, because customer record management systems were never designed to solve that problem.
Okay, so CRM started out as it's a lot of data on the customer, but it's not something that necessarily exists in one place. It's not something that companies could take advantage of. So where are we today with CRM? What's sort of state of the art?
So there's an interesting sea change happening right now, and it starts not with the industry, but with the customer. And all customers are empowered. You have a very slick looking mobile phone right there. Your aunt has one. We all have them. And we are digital, and often digital first. And where it's getting interesting is the customers are demanding a better experience. They're comparing the experience from every brand to the last best experience they've had, regardless of the brand or the industry. So the walls have come down in terms of who you're competing with in terms of experience. And this has got a lot of businesses scrambling to figure out how they can somehow figure this out.
While I just interrupt, I just had a great experience and I had to share it. So I've had a Mac Air for quite a while. And in fact, I haven't replaced it because they've been neglecting those products for a long time. Are you listening, Apple? Fix that. I want new Apple Air with a much bigger hard drive. But anyway, it was time to replace the battery. I make an appointment. While I'm there, the guy says, "So what do you do?" And well, I run a company. He says, "Oh, well, there's company discounts and so forth." And then he notices that my keyboard, many of the keys are worn out. And he goes, "I can fix those for you, no charge." And so that. Nice. And so then I get an email 4 hours later saying your battery's replaced. We didn't lose your hard drive, even though you had backed it up dutifully. That was a great experience. And so that's, to me, have they cemented? I'm already a Mac guy, but they made it a lot easier for me to talk about it here. So where are we going with CRM in terms of, is that CRM, what I just described?
So where we're going, pieces of it are. And what they're doing is something that they're addressing the customer journey. And you have a very different path than the next person that walks into the Apple store. They're looking for something very different, which is why the old ways of doing blanket campaigns and one size fits all just doesn't work. So the customer journey, you're in control. And now the business has to figure out how to move with you. And how do they orchestrate that? And that's what the new opportunity is for CRM, and where we're seeing enterprises realize that enterprise CRM, where it's going to do this, is very different than the old CRM or even the marketing automation technologies that have been around for some time. And we see that sometimes people are lulled into believing that the customer journey is a marketing thing, and it's simply not, because it's the customer's journey, not the business's. And the customer touches all your functions.
All right, and that's a really interesting point. And I've had an interesting conversation with Gene Bliss about customer experience, and who owns this, who owns the customer. Explain what you mean, though. Let's get into detail. So, if marketing doesn't own CRM, how do you make it a sort of an enterprise level commitment?
Sure, we commonly see that marketing will feel they own the experience, and many do. To be honest, we see chief customer officers emerging, which is a godsend to the industry. But to say that the customer journey is a marketing thing, that's where things fall down. And because we have to think with our customer hat on, the customer touches your sales function. Your customer absolutely will be touching your customer service entities, whether it's a digital channel on your mobile app or your Facebook or otherwise, or it's a contact center. They're deciding where and when they interact. It may or may not be the marketing. So how in the world do you solve that? And when businesses get their head around the fact that's exactly what they have to figure out, then they take a step back and a different approach is required, which is what we've been innovating at Pega. And there's a lot of excitement and buzz here around this topic of AI. And interestingly enough, AI has been around for a while, and Pega was one of the innovators long, long ago. And the excitement is that the results are in. And if you go to the sessions and walk the halls here at Pega World, there are customer after customer after customer leading sessions on how they've used AI to transform the customer experience by understanding the customer's journey, not just what the business wants to sell.
All right, so we're going to get into AI, but I want to harp on this. We'll get into AI in the second half of the show. I want to harp on this issue of marketing versus, say, customer experience, because it's really an important one, because marketing in this context is about driving a customer into the system and selling them something and hopefully selling them more something later. And we will measure that based on whether our ability, a cost per acquisition type measure, right? Whereas customer experience is about satisfaction. It's softer metrics. They show up, they come back to bite you if those numbers are bad, because you get bad repeats or high churn levels like the Sprint guys were talking about. So you have to sort of find this balance. So if marketing doesn't own CRM, who does own it?
So there's a number of ways to answer that. The chief customer officer, if there is one, owns the overall experience, which CRM kind of falls under that category. But it's often a technical thing. You often inside of IT will have a CRM practice, and there will be people that own these types of functions. The marketing should feel empowered, though. I'm not hoping we're not saying that marketing doesn't own aspects of experience. And in many ways, they should be the ones dreaming up how should it feel, regardless of where you interact. In line with our brand promise, are we delivering? And if we could only craft those experiences, what would they be? And that's where the great opportunity lies.
All right. I think I'm getting this. Now, is there any difference between marketing automation and CRM?
Well, there is. And marketing automation is a subcategory of CRM. And in CRM, you generally will find in a hierarchy, there is marketing automation. You have sales automation, and you have customer service technologies. And you can find some other flavors, here and there. Inside of marketing automation, something interesting has happened. There is a transition that has happened from the marketing automation systems of the past that were campaign automation systems, where you're literally taking populations, trying to define segments, and then build offers to send at them. The new way is the other direction, where you're actually understanding the customer in the moment, what their intent might be, their context, and then figuring out what in the world is the right thing for us to do right now. And it may or may not be a marketing offer. And that's a concept that is called next best action analytics. It's all powered by AI. And what it's doing in real time is it, again, turns things on and end completely. What is the next best action? It could be to present a certain marketing offer. It could be to present a retention offer. It could be to ask them how Did they like the product they just bought a month ago, and was it working well for them? There's your net promoter score right there, or at least in that category. It could be to ask, by the way, we don't think we have the right email address for you. Can I just ask, is this the right one? To improve your data. The next best action could be to simply say thank you.
That's really interesting. I love that expression, next best action. And I'm based on the demonstration that I saw this morning that was presented at the keynote. It feels like that is something that is that is happening automatically. And then the person who was, say, operating that thing can press next best action. But does it? So tell me again. So next best action is happening. Is there somebody that's approving next best action, or is it just happening automatically?
Both are available to businesses, and where some will get started is by looking at the decision that is made by the system, by the AI, and training by saying, yes, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct, this isn't correct. And some will start that way. Other ones will start by testing with parts of their population in an A/B test or a champion challenger test with different strategies, but all automatically. And the data will tell you, is it correct? Is it not correct? And the system just continually learns from how things are being accepted and which things aren't, and it calibrates over time.
So it just keeps getting smarter.
It does.
That's not seeming to happen to me, though. As an individual. So speaking of not getting smarter, I need to take a quick break. Actually, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to really get into the AI. It's a term that's used a lot, and I really want to make sure that we all understand what it is and what it's going to mean for marketers.
Renegade Thinkers Unite is brought to you by Social Media Explorer, the website that explores the world of social media from the inside out. Great advice from today's leading social media columnists and experts at socialmediaexplorer.com. That's socialmediaexplorer.com.
All right, we're back, and my guest is Jeff Nicholson, who is Vice President of Product Marketing at Pega. Specifically, we've been talking about CRM, and now we're going to dive into this wondrous thing called AI, and really make sure that the folks that are listening, if you want to be cutting edge right now, what does AI mean?
Well, if you were trying to get results right now, and I think the key was almost in your question, what it means is you have to get a strategy in place now. AI in the years past has been something that has been large. It has been something that will take you 6 months, 12 months, or longer to stand up and get running, let alone getting business results. And those days are no longer palatable. They're no longer practical. And frankly, they no longer are enough. And if you're a business right now that is not applying AI technologies, a particularly large enterprise, you're behind. You're simply behind.
So let's talk about specific examples. Maybe you could talk about a customer that is using AI to its fullest potential right now.
Many great examples here on the show floor today. We heard a great keynote this morning. So there you had Sprint telling this wonderful story on how years past they were actually hemorrhaging customers. They had a churn problem that they knew they had to address. They had to get better at their margins. They had to do a number of different things, and they had to do them all. And rather than complain about it, they took action. And one of those actions was to apply AI and do just what we talked about. They didn't take 12 months and 14. They stood this up in 3 months, live, in production, producing results in real time with customers to understand which customers were attrition risks, what are the right things they can do to save them, what are the right types of offers to present them to make them happy as customers. And the results went through the roof. And I believe he showed north of 10% improvement to customer retention when he was on stage. And if you think about the average lifetime value of a customer, if you can actually improve that by 10%, and his number was higher than that.
It was 14%.
14%. It's incredible. It changes the game, which is now why they're showing statistics that, you know what, they're no longer having issues like that. They're actually ranked among the top carriers in the country, full stop, in many cases, number one.
So I thought that was a really interesting case, and I'm going to just go on about it for a second, because the first thing, and I thought it was really interesting, is the first thing they said, we have a product problem. And they fixed that first. They said the network isn't as good as it needs to be. We need to be within 1% of Verizon. That difference isn't going to matter much. So they spent some money to fix that. And I think that's really important, that marketing can't solve every issue, right? And AI can't solve every issue if the product fundamentally isn't as good. Then I thought, with the way, you want to comment on that?
Well, what you're talking about is the customer journey. The product isn't as good, then you have customers that are having bad experience. Again, their journey, not the marketing offer, is what counts. And that's exactly what they had to solve.
Right. And so again, they fixed, to the extent that they could, they fixed the product so at least it was on par so that their complaints wouldn't be bad. But I think what AI did is sort of, now that the product was at parity, they could start to show, they could use AI to make the customer experience better. And so I noticed that their net promoter score went up. There's certainly the brand recognition. And then, of course, the genius and the boldness. You talk about renegade thinking. And I hadn't really thought about that campaign that much, but using, I can't remember the spokesperson's name. It's not like Doug. I don't know. Paul, thank you. Using Paul was a stroke of genius because everybody knew what he represented and the fact that he was switching, and the fact that there was a product story followed by a customer experience to support it. It's the whole thing. And I think that's one of the big lessons. All right. So we talked about Sprint, and is there another example of a company? And let's sort of dig in a little bit this time in terms of what does it actually take to implement something like this?
Sure. There are dozens of examples. Royal Bank of Scotland is another great one. And it is about a philosophical shift that is happening in many industries. There's not a shortage of banks out there. And there's certainly no shortage of banks that are out there professing that you're more than just a number, that they want to build a relationship. It's pretty commoditized messaging. Royal Bank of Scotland knew that they had to do more. And they actually have implemented a philosophy down to the core called personology, meaning it's all about the person. And can we actually make a science in this business and change things that wrap around the person and who they are, what's important to them, and make it feel almost like it felt back in the 70s when you walked up to the bank, and the moment you walked in, they knew you, and they knew that you were still paying for college and all these things. How do we put that back? And this was one of those ways they pulled that off. And they stood up this customer decision hub to do just that. And it actually infuses this capability of understanding individual customers, their state, their need in the moment, assembling data in real time, making very smart decisions using analytics in real time, and informing the systems and the touch points that the business has in real time to just do the right thing, to guide the agent in the branch, to guide the agent in a contact center as to the right thing to say next, to guide the digital system, the website, even things like ATMs, to just do the right thing.
It's great expression, personology. And where's all this data coming from? And how is it all getting integrated? And that's the part. It feels like magic when you're a customer and it just happens. But there must be a lot that goes into these things. I mean, I know that every sort of marketing technology software that we've worked with or that our clients have worked with over the years, every single time there is always an underestimation of the manpower it takes to use the tool. There's lots of manpower in it. So where is the manpower in this process, even though you mentioned Sprint getting it off the ground in 3 months? How is all this data getting integrated? What's pulling it together?
Sure, and there's probably a couple questions in there. One is on manpower, one is on the data, and we'll try and break them apart. There's an interesting thing that has fueled this transition and widespread adoption of AI. One of those things is the availability of data. These systems are just spinning off data, and every time you turn, there's more and more data coming off. Whether it's a social streaming data or just an abundance of static data that's just piling up on web transactions that are happening and so forth. And what that does is it presents the opportunity for analytic models to learn through a greater data set in volume to draw better conclusions. And that's part of it. That being said, there is a misconception right now, which is that I can't do anything unless I have lots and lots and lots of data. I can't apply this AI technology. It's simply not true. And the brands that are here at PegaWorld, they will tell you that they're able to actually, like we talked about, not just sit in the sidelines and complain about all the data they might need before they get going. They're using the data they have. And you train on an outcome that you're trying to solve for. And for many outcomes, you don't need a lot of data. You just need the right data for that particular model. And so businesses can get starting, whether they're using full-blown learning AI or just using that same engine to adopt basic rules that the business knows are correct, or other models they've built internally that they want to operationalize using, again, the existing data they own. The brands that are winning are getting going. They're not waiting around and trying to get all the data.
So one of the things that this makes me think is, I've had this vision for a long time where I'm going to walk into a store that I've been into before. Let's take the Apple store. And the representative's going to be wearing a Google Glass type thing. They were going to recognize me through facial recognition, and I had agreed that they could do that. And they say, "Oh, Mr. Neiser, it's great to see you. How's your MacBook Air doing? I noticed the battery was kind of down. Can we fix that for you?" And also have a little bit more information to say, you know what, I bet you'd like this now. And for example, I noticed that one of the apps that you're using, you're using it incorrectly. How is AI something that could get sort of save retail, radically change the retail experience?
Well, that and others. And the experience that you just described is absolutely possible today. And all it is the orchestration of experience by recognizing, assembling data in real time across channels and making real-time decisions based upon your individual needs and your context. I mean, I said a mouthful there, but it really isn't that hard because the technology's come along so far. Your comment about going into an Apple store and seeing Google Glass, I think that's not likely to happen.
But the idea of facial recognition through glasses so that individual can do it, it feels like that opportunity should be right now.
Yes, the exact kind of storyline that you said isn't far-fetched. And the only thing stopping those types of things from happening are the individuals to dream them up. And what they're trying to figure out are what are the experience that we can orchestrate that will provide utility and value that is welcomed without jumping over a creepy factor line, right? So, and consumers are willing to actually give up their data. They're willing to give up aspects of privacy as long as there's utility and value and it actually improves their experience. And as long as you're solving for that, you're going to more likely than not stay on the right side of it.
So that's interesting. So one of the challenges that I think companies that sell software have is that the usage of it is only as good as the imagination of the customer that has it, particularly with something like AI. Are you all, in addition to selling the software, in the service business to help some of these companies maximize and sort of see this future?
So we are, as are our partners, and at PegaWorld, you're going to see a lot of great partners here. Too many to mention. I wouldn't want to single anyone out. And they are the geniuses that are helping and they're advising us to best practices. And one of the interesting things that they and Pega are able to do is we have a vantage point that they simply don't have. We see not just across their competitors, we see across industries. We see how telecommunications is transforming their field. And guess what? That can actually help another industry like healthcare transform theirs. And we're forcing conversations to be had across those lines and allowing people to engage at customer advisory boards and understand how these things are changing other industries so that they can take and apply in theirs. So the imagination is there, and the vision is there. And that was just a matter of, can you have someone that can guide you as to how to make it happen? And that's an interesting conversation to be had. We find that most businesses can think of a good vision. It's the how do I get there that the challenge is. How do I break it into something that's manageable rather than a big bang, which will take years.
What should I be expecting from an AI standpoint from these big companies in terms of this? For example, we'll take an industry, healthcare. Should I expect that they have all the records and they recognize me and they say, "Hi, Drew Neiser. Oh, I noticed you broke your shoulder skiing in 2002. We'll make sure that, But how far will this could this go? Let's just put on your future cap for us a little bit and prognosticate.
Sure. All those things will become true. And the difference is it always takes someone to do it first. And you're going to see it happen. Obviously, in recent years, you have folks like Apple and who's another good one? Amazon that does this very well. And they really are setting the bar for experience. But guess what? There's going to be another company that we don't even know about yet that does something even better and becomes the new standard. And they will be doing all those things you talked about and recognizing it. Will every large company be doing it? No, because again, these ideas grow, and the comparison is against that last best experience that consumers have had, and that's a bar that's going to always continue to rise.
So a couple of things, and I'm come back to you. So on the way here, I was on an American flight, and we had some vector issues. We were flying all over the Dallas area. We couldn't land, and we might have had to go to Oklahoma. So I'm online with American, their social channel, who I converse with regularly, and said, looks like we may be landing late. I'm going to miss my connection. Anything you can do? They responded within 2 minutes and said, just in case you miss your flight, we have a seat for you on the next one. I thought that was pretty cool. That didn't require artificial intelligence, but it sure required some good listening.
Well, I love that story. And where I would like to see a shift is that should not be responsive. That should be proactive. And that's what the new opportunity is when you get data together. And you had a great example where you had to make a connection. You're already upset that your flight's delayed. Wouldn't it be nice information if the attendant could come down the aisles and update you? By the way, I know we're late, but guess what? The next flight's also delayed, so you're perfectly fine. Wouldn't that make you just feel better? It doesn't happen today because, again, the data is not connected to the systems. It's dead simple to do. It's just not being done.
All right. So as we wrap up, give me 3 key insights here that anybody thinking about adopting a new CRM program that's really smart, that 3 things they should be thinking about or looking for. It's a veiled sales pitch opportunity, but it's also a chance to sort of bring some summary and closure to this episode.
So first and foremost, it's that not every. Well, how do I phrase this? Most businesses think everyone else has it solved and they're the ones that are struggling. And it's just not true. So the first thing I would say is that the key is just to get going. And it is about moving quickly. And we see a lot of folks using language like, we need to fail fast. We need to get a quick win. And those are the ones that actually are outpacing their competition. So everyone listening today, that is the mindset that you need. It's not something that is an optional thing if you're going to compete in this industry. Next, as you look to get going, you simply can't solve it all at once in terms of solving it across all your channels, all your data. You have to make it manageable. So you want to prioritize. And what we think of is that you need to identify a hero channel to begin that transition. You're not going to turn on your AI across all your channels at once. You don't need to. What you need to do is start in one place. It might be your website. It might be your mobile app. It could be through Facebook Messenger and using a chatbot. Start somewhere. If you use the right approach, like the one that Pega believes in is innovated, it's one where you're using a customer decision hub to hold that logic. And what that allows you to do is to take that immediately and just point it at another channel and move to the next channel and move to the next channel. You saw that in the main stage today where an entire experience was just simply pointed at this Alexa experience, and it was all automatically enabled. And that's what businesses have to think about is, how do I become channelless as a business instead of locking logic inside the channels? How do I take a step back? So adopt that mindset, and I think you'll be in great shape.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. Typically, I try to summarize these things, but I think what I'm going to do instead is encourage you to go to the show notes page on Renegade Thinkers Unite, and I will provide some links to some of the cases and some other things that you can look for. I mean, I think the key takeaway that I have is that every business needs to be thinking about customer relationship management. You may not be able to take advantage of some of these enterprise level AI things, but there's a lot of efforts being made right now to help small and medium sized businesses in the AI space with certain types of data. So don't get intimidated by this. What Jeff really was saying is get started. Because if your customers matter, you probably want to have a relationship with them and use data to take advantage of it. So thanks, Jeff, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.